Recordings in progress. All right. So we've mentioned personality styles on a number of occasions. Obviously, if you've been to any sort of Mike Ferry event, we talk about personality styles. I mentioned this last week, a little bit about personality styles, and then told you I was going to talk a little bit about it today and then give you a couple. One person asked, would you be able to give us an example of different objection handler based on personality style? And I have a few of them, but I'll do one of them today. Okay, so we're going to talk about personality styles. So before I get into the kind of break down the personality styles, I want to go to a couple why personality styles are so important. All right, so some of you have heard me talk about this before, but it bears repeating. Mike Ferry, first of all, whatever you think of Mike Ferry, can you agree that he has a fairly successful business? Okay. So, I mean, because look, the reality is I know some of you don't like him. Okay. So let's just get that out of the way. Okay. Some of you love him. Some of you don't like him. It is what it is. But we can all agree that he has a very successful business. So Mike said one time, we were at the coaches training. We do this twice a year. We does the coaching, the coaches. And he said, he was talking about personality styles. And he said, the main reason my company is as successful as it is my ability to communicate with multiple personality styles. The main reason my company is as successful as it is my ability to communicate to multiple personality styles, which I thought was a huge point, because you would think like, well, he's successful because he's a great speaker, because he's got great experience. He knows a lot of product knowledge. He's this, and this. He's a great businessman. In his mind, the number one reason he's had the success he has is because he can understand personality styles. So keep that in mind as to why this is so important. So the next thing I wrote down here on the why, there are 4 basic personality styles, and we'll go through those. If we assume that each personality style has the equal number of people, that means each personality style represents 25% of the market. Therefore, if you only work with people that are like you, then you're losing 75% of the market. So let me ask you this question. Is it tough to get a listing?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is it tough? Is it tough to get a buyer into escrow?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay. So since it's tough to get a listing, it's tough to get a buyer into escrow, can you afford to cut off 75% of the potential listings and buyers?
No.
No. Okay. Okay. I'm glad that 2 of you. Okay. 3 of you, 4 of you think so. Great. The other 30 of you are just crushing it, I guess, on just that 25% that you're working with. All right. So you can't afford to lose 75% of the business. The third part of the why personality styles are so important is Mike had told me this years ago on a coaching call, and I believe it 100%. Personality styles is the easiest way to going from closing 25% of your listing presentations to closing 75%. Meaning that if you did nothing else, if you did the same prospecting, went on the same number of appointments, did the same presentation, but all you did was simply understand their personality style and did nothing else different, you would still increase your closing percentage from 25 to 75%. If you did nothing else. And then the fourth part of the why, as to why personality styles are so important, is that it's one of the few sources of competitive advantage left to a salesperson. Meaning that, is there always going to be someone offering a lower commission?
Yes.
Anyone else? Is it just Alexis and I?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah,
all right.
people are going to do that for sure.
Oh boy. Is there always going to be someone offering a higher price?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just going to talk with myself now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there always going to be someone offering more marketing? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So There's always going to be someone offering a higher price. There's always going to be someone offering a lower commission. There's always going to be someone offering more marketing. There's always going to be someone who's quote unquote number one, right? So those aren't competitive advantages anymore. One of the last competitive advantages you have is the ability to relate to the person based on their personality style so that they get treated the way that they want to be treated. Okay, so personality styles, that important. All right, so let's dive into this because I want to actually get to a couple of examples. So there's 4 basic personality styles. We're going to go through those. Number 1, you have analytical. Analytical. Analyticals want facts, figures, and details. They want facts, figures, and details. It has to be specific. You cannot use vague terms with an analytical. Give you an example. Well, we do a bunch of marketing. What's a bunch of marketing? Be specific. Well, I have a ton of people in my database. How many? An analytical's not, nobody's dumb, but an analytical's not dumb. When they know, you know how many people you have in your database. So when you say, oh, I have a bunch of people in my database that are going to get this listing, they know you have a number and you're just making them feel stupid by just not giving it to them. So specific, well, give you an example. Instead of saying we're going to do a ton of marketing, well, Mr. Marcel, some of the marketing we're going to do is that I'm going to send this out to everyone in my office. They're going to get a copy of this listing on our company hot list. That's about 185 to 200 real estate agents in the area. On top of that, I'm going to send it out to my database. My database has 222 people in it. They are the primary source of my business. So I'm going to make sure that they all have this to see if they know a buyer. On top of that, I'm going to call around the area because your neighbors might know someone who wants to move into the area. They get a chance to pick their neighbor. Isn't that nice? So I'm going to make 15 contacts a day specifically for your listing. That's 75 contacts a week. That's specific. Instead of I'm going to send it out to a bunch of people in my database. We're going to do a ton of marketing. I'm going to call a lot of people around the area. Facts, figures, details, specifics. If you want to turn off an analytical, do this. The market's hot. That's crazy. What does that mean? Well, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, right now, the average days on market in your area is down 52% compared to this time last year, and the average sales price is up 6.8%. So as you can see, sellers are getting more money in less time. That's what an analytical wants to hear. If you do exactly what I just did in talking with an analytical, that type of conversation, they will sign instantly. But if you're doing vague statements, you'll never get it. Facts, figures, details. They will only act when the payoff is clear. So therefore, when you're talking with an analytical, you need to write down these words. If you don't write down these words, you will never, ever, 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 ever get an analytical to list with you, okay? The words are, does that make sense? If you don't ask an analytical, does that make sense, after every point, you will never get an analytical to list a property with you. So one of the best examples I can give you is when you're going through the comps. You're going through the comps with an analytical. All right, Mr. Marcel, this home is a little bit better than yours. You know, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, blah, 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 all these other different things. And how much do they list it for? Okay, great. Okay, so now let's look at this comp. Your home is a little bit better than this one. You've moved on to the second comp. You didn't say, does that make sense? They're still on the first comp trying to figure out why that home is better than theirs. Which means they don't care about the second comp that their house is better or the third one that's equal. So you now go to the end of the third comp and you say, based on that, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what price do you think we should list for? They're still stuck on the first comp. They haven't even gotten through the rest of them yet. Every time. Okay, does that make sense? Yes, it does. Great. Now let's go to the second comp. because they might say, well, hold on a second here. I'm still not 100% sure why this home is better than ours. I had to look at these pictures, blah, blah, blah. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Okay, they will only act when the payoff is clear. An analytical sometimes may seem detached. What detached means is they may look like sometimes they're not really paying attention. As a professional speaker, I just assume I'm dealing with nothing but analyticals. The fact that nobody laughed proves my point. Yeah. So, meaning that, have you ever dealt with a client? Okay, you don't have to answer, but have you ever dealt with a client where they're kind of almost like looking, like they're kind of like almost like they're kind of looking in space, maybe looking down like this, right? They seem detached. Okay, probably all been there. That's probably a good sign of an analytical. It might not necessarily mean that they're not paying attention. It's just that's their way of kind of processing things. They're kind of processing. They're not like expressives analytical, which we'll get into later, that are right here, right? They're right with you. And analytical is kind of detached. They're back in their chair. They're leaned back, kind of hands like this. They're kind of, it might seem a little bit detached. An analytical loves the process, meaning that you cannot over-explain to an analytical. So when you go through your listing plan of action, for example, go through the listing plan of action. They love the process. When you're working with an analytical buyer, first thing we're going to do is this. Second thing we're going to do is this. Third thing we're going to do is this. And then you're going to write an offer. And then this is going to happen. And this is going to, they love the process. Never can you over-explain to an analytical. Explain everything. Go through it. They typically have a dry sense of humor. One of the easiest ways to find an analytical is when they find something funny, they don't laugh. They just go, that's funny. Okay. So some of you might know somebody like that. Like you just tell a killer joke and they go, that's funny. And you're like, well, then why didn't you laugh? Analytical's not going to laugh. They're just going to say, that's funny. Okay. They want to know how it's going to get done. Analytical typically is always going to be back in their chairs. When you're talking to them, they're not going to be up front like this. They're going to ask a lot of questions. And they're going to talk a lot. Now, we tend to associate talking a lot with expressives. Expressives and analyticals both talk a lot. The difference is expressives are typically louder and more animated when they talk. Analyticals are more slower in their talk. Analyticals ask questions, expressives do not. Questions on analyticals. So an easy way to find out an analytical, for example, is that they're always going to want multiple reviews, or they're going to want multiple opinions. So when you say, are you planning to interview more than one agent for the job selling your home? Yes, we always interview 3 people before making a decision, right? They have a plan, they have a process. Second one, I wrote down here for personality style is a driver. Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing on analyticals. They're slow decision makers. So you have to practice patience. Patience, Obi-Wan. Driver. Drivers only care about the results. So opposite of an analytical in terms of step 1, we're going to do this. Step 2, we're going to do this. A driver just wants to know that we're going to get to A to B. I want to sell my home. Okay, great. Well, here's my 18-point plan of action. I don't need an 18-point plan of action. I just want to know, I just want to feel comfortable that you're going to get me to the end. So Mr. and Ms. Seller, based on what I've told you so far today, do you think I can get you the most amount of money in the least amount of time? Yeah, great. Then let's do it. They don't need to hear everything. Bottom line only, results only. They're typically very direct, just get things done type of mentality. Now, it's very important that you don't confuse direct with rude. It's one of the biggest stereotypes we get with drivers. Oh, drivers are direct. They're usually more rude. That's not true. There's a difference between being direct and being rude. They don't want the go around. Again, it's A to B. I'm A to B with a driver. They make quick decisions. They tend to be more proactive. They want to feel like they're involved and they want to feel like they're the boss. I'll give you an example. On a driver. So I'm sure one of the things you want me, what are you going to do to get my home sold? Well, I'm sure one of the things you would love for me to do is tell the neighbors about your listing. Is that right? Oh yeah, it's exactly what I want you to do. Great. That's what I'm going to do. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to call 15 people a day, 75 people a week. Okay. Now, as far as open houses, do you want me to do an open house or you want me to keep no open houses? No, I want you to do an open house. Great. Then one of the other things I'm going to do an open house and I'm going to go promote. You're asking questions that make them feel like they're in charge, even though you're doing things that you're going to do anyways. Because a driver wants to feel in charge. They want to feel like they have control. So if you just tell them this is what you're going to do, then it's kind of like, well, who are you? I'm the decision maker here. Okay. Or you could just say, for example, as as I'm sure you know, most of my business comes from past client centers of influence. So that's one of the ways I'm definitely going to go out there and get your marketing going, because now it's like, yeah, that's right, I do know that. So yes, make sure you're doing that. Okay. They want to be proactive. They want to be in it. With a driver, never call them with just news. Call them with news. And if it's bad news, call them with bad news and a solution. Or if it's good news, it's here's the good news and the next step. Meaning that appraisal comes in short. Don't ever call a driver and go, hey, so we ran into an issue. Appraisal came in short. We wanted it at 950. It came in at 925. And then you just stop. They're going to be upset. They're going to be pissed. Okay. What are you doing to fix it? Appraisal came at 925. So here's what we're going to do. Boom, boom, boom. Proactive. Or if it's good news, hey, appraisal came in at 950. We're all good. So now the next step is they're going to get their inspection report done tomorrow, and then we'll see how that goes. Always moving forward. Drivers will typically sit up in their chair, elbows on the table kind of people, very in your face. They don't talk a lot, but they do talk a little more loud and a little more animated. Questions on the driver? All right, third one, amiable. Amiable. Amiables are warm and friendly. Warm and friendly people, right? They have a high concern for others. Because they have a high concern for others, it's almost guaranteed they are not the only decision maker. So when you find out somebody's an amiable, one of the things you need to do is make sure, are all the decision makers going to be there? Who else is involved in this decision-making process? Don't ever assume that just because they're the only person on title, they're the only decision maker. Almost every amiable has someone else they're going to confide in, whether it be a spouse, a child, a financial advisor, a brother, a sister, somebody, almost every time. Because they want someone else's opinion. They want to make sure there's a comfort that they're making the right decision. This is the right thing to do. Because they're warm and friendly, you can't treat them like a driver and be very direct. You have to be a little more soft-spoken, a little more go through the process. Amiables are slow decision makers. If you try to speed up an amiable, they will shut down and you will not get the business. Okay. So you have to make sure with an amiable that if they're not moving the way you want, You have to ask questions in a very friendly manner and not turn into super driver mode of, well, let me tell you why you should list right now. You're going to lose it. And you're going to lose it by them, a term I've learned last year, ghosting. Does everybody know what ghosting is?
No.
I learned that in 2021. For those of you who don't know what ghosting is, it's when somebody just stops returning your phone calls or texts or emails. This is something that men have been going through for centuries. Now there's a term for it. Sometimes these are just for me. So that's what will happen with an amiable. They just will stop conversing with you. And this is, okay, now here's the key with an amiable, okay? This is the key. I'm going to give you the golden nugget key to dealing with an amiable. Okay? They're team players. Everything is we or some version of we. Meaning, so Mr. and Mrs. Seller, one of the things that we're going to do first is put the property on the MLS. Then what we're going to do is send an email out to everyone in our company. Then what we're going to, this is what we're going to do. All right, well, we have 6 offers so far. When would you like to go over those? When can we go over those? Okay, great. What do you think is the best option we can come up with? It's we, not you. Oh, Mr. Marcelo, what do you want to do? I think this is what we should do. I think this is what we should do. We should consider this. It's we or some version of that. It's a team. As soon as it becomes an individual, a them or you, the bond breaks. Amiables, just like analyticals, are going to be more soft-spoken. They're going to be back in their chairs. They're going to be more question-based, but they won't talk as much. So when you're looking, trying to figure out, well, what's the difference between amiable and analytical based on certain features? Well, they're both going to be back in their chair. They're both going to ask a lot of questions. The difference is an analytical is going to talk a lot, and an amiable is not going to talk as much. And then the things they talk about will be different.
Robert, who makes a slower decision? Is it amiable or analytical?
About the same. The difference, but there's a difference. It's the time is the same. There's a difference in how they go about the process, meaning that an analytical takes a long time because they want to process all the information. An amiable takes a longer time because there's usually somebody else involved in the decision-making process. They want to make sure that they're making everyone happy with their decision. So it's going to take the same amount of time, but for different reasons. Okay. So that's an amiable. Now we go down to express. Go ahead.
Can I say something about amiable?
Sure.
They're high drivers under stress.
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes. All right, number 4. The last one is expressive. So expressives also, like analyticals, talk a lot. Again, difference being is that they're more animated and louder talking than analyticals. They're very quick, they're very friendly, they're very enthusiastic, they have high energy. Okay. Typically is the easiest personality style to spot is an expressive. Okay, quick, friendly, enthusiastic, a lot of energy, talks a lot, very animated. Expressives don't care about the details. They only care about the end result. So when talking to an expressive, going through a plan of action doesn't make a difference. What you need to know with an expressive, here's the key. When dealing with an expressive, you need to know their motivation and you need to hit it 1,000 times. So give you an example. I'm selling my house because I want to go live at the beach in Santa Monica. You know, I want to be by the water, the waves, the pier, the boats. I want to be by all that. I want that lifestyle. Okay, great. All right, Mr. and Mrs. Sauer. So you want to be in Santa Monica, right? I mean, look, let's get you to Santa Monica. We could get this home sold for $950. You're going to net $450, and we're going to put that in a down payment. We'll have you in Santa Monica in front of the boats by the next 3 months. Let's do it. What do you think? Yeah, let's go. Didn't the how I'm going to make it happen doesn't matter. It's just that I'm hitting their motivation and tapping into that energy and enthusiasm that they have. If you can't do that, an expressive will find you boring and they won't work with you. You have to tap into their motivation to get them excited. Quick, friendly, enthusiastic, high energy. I wrote down here long sweeping statements, or as I like to put it, long answers to short questions. Long answers to short questions, meaning, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, what does 2 + 2 equal? Well, look, I mean, it's pretty simple, right? I mean, this is basic 3rd grade math. 2 + 2 equals 4. I learned this. It's like, you could have just said 4. But an expressive is not going to do that. It's a long answer to a short question. So easy way to find an expressive is when you're asking a basic question, how long is the response? Okay. Now, expressives like drivers are typically more up front in the seat, right? Elbows up, right here, eye contact. They're high energy. They talk loudly. They talk a lot. So very much like that. Questions on anything I've gone over so far?
Robert,
Yes.
is it my turn? I mean, can I talk?
Go ahead, Gilda.
Okay, thank you. What are some of the professionals that you can name that would fit one or the other personality?
Like real estate people?
No. Like if teachers, where would they be?
Oh,
for example,
got it.
or physicians or CPAs. I mean, which category would they fit in?
Teachers are amiable. Almost all
Okay.
of them are amiable because they're more warm, friendly people. They're doing it for others type of thing. So teachers are going to be more amiable. Anywhere there's a lot of math is probably going to be more analytical. Engineers, accountants, things like that are going to be more analytical.
Okay.
I heard.
So those are kind of the easy ones in terms of different professions on how that goes. Anything else is tough. Someone could say, well, a doctor, that could be amiable. They have a high concern for others. Well, not really, because doctors also get paid a ton of money. So you might be an expressive that's a doctor just because you want to make a lot of money.
Can I share something real quick?
Hold on one second.
Okay,
Teachers don't
sorry.
necessarily make a lot of money, so you'd have to be something more of a concern for others for the most part.
Okay.
So those are some of like the basics that you could do. Salespeople could be anything. So if it's a sales of any aspect, could be anything. Analyticals and amiables are the easiest. Like someone who works, for example, in human resources is probably more amiable. Someone who works like a coder for Google, Amazon, someone who does coding is probably more analytical. Drivers and expressives are tough because they kind of could go more particular ways. It's just analyticals and amiables are easier professions to identify.
Okay. Thank
Yes,
you.
Chris. Yes, Chris.
Oh, sorry. Just want to make a comment. I learned this. I heard that Mother Teresa, she was actually a driver. I thought it was shocking.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Just telling people what to do, man. All right.
Yeah.
Good
Robert,
stuff. Yes.
what's the one thing that a friendly wants? Like the analytical wants facts and figures. The driver wants bottom line. and the expressive wants the end result. So what does the
Good
amiable?
question. Good question. An amiable wants to, they want to feel like they're part of a team. So it's not so much like the facts and figures or bottom line or motivation. An amiable just wants to feel protected. They want to feel like it's a part of a team effort. They want to feel like they're making the right decision. So it's more of a comfort thing than a motivation or numbers type of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, and with that being said, it's a great question, because with an amiable, you might have to get into facts, figures, and details for them to feel comfort that they're making the right decision. Or you might have to get into the motivation aspect of it of, gosh, you're doing this because you want to be closer to your grandkids, right? I mean, they're everything to you. Yeah, I want to get closer to my grandkids. Great, gosh, let's get you there. So you might, with an amiable, you might have to do the facts, figures, and details for them to feel comfort. You might have to do the motivation to whatever it is for them to feel comfort. But it's more about making sure they feel comfortable and that they're making the safe decision.
Yeah. Robert, can I say something? This is
Yes.
Gilda again. I am an amiable, and it's really, like you said, it's all about, the emotions and comforting that person and making sure that I am protected in my decision, and I'm, making that nobody's unhappy with the decision that I am going to be making. It's just about comfort, like you said.
Yep.
And
100%.
yeah, so but yeah, analyticals are a little difficult. Drivers to me are the most difficult to identify. I mean, is that the same for for everybody else too, or?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, expressives are the easiest because they're typically, it's easy. Who's loud? Them. Expressive.
Yeah.
Pretty simple, right? So yes, drivers can certainly be the most difficult ones because it's tough to determine if someone's just being direct or if they want the results. They have a question. So drivers can be typically tough. The one thing I'll say here on personality styles, if you can't identify their personality style, they're probably the same as you. So here's what I mean by that. First of all, you have to identify your own personality style and you have to be honest. Okay. Mike does this all the time. 75% of people think they're drivers, which I don't know why everyone tries to make themselves a driver. I don't know if it's like an ego thing, even though amiables typically make the best real estate agents. So it's really interesting that everyone goes to being a driver. Not everyone is a driver. Okay, so you have to identify what you are. And if you can't identify what they are, they're probably the same as you, because typically we compare someone to us and we go, so I'll give you an example. I'm an expressive and I'm like, God, I can't figure out what they are. I mean, they're not expressive. They don't have nearly as much energy as I do. Just because they don't have as much energy as I do doesn't mean they don't have a lot of energy compared to everyone else. It's the same thing. We do that with anyone else. Well, they can't be an amiable. I mean, they don't care as much for much people as I do. Well, you're just amiable to the extreme. So if you can't figure out their personality style, it's almost guaranteed it's the same as yours. Is another way to find out their personality style.
Robert, can I touch upon with this? I'm amiable, and one of the things that I notice, especially with people that have my personality or not, is when I go to their homes, the pictures, things that they have around the house.
That's true.
Like myself, I have a lot of pictures of the family all the time, all my kids, my grandbaby, family, all stuff. And I can see expressive, they most of the pictures that they have is about themselves, things that they accomplish or whatever.
Yep. No, it's little things like that make all the difference. All right, so a couple more points, and I want to wrap up here with an example. I want to share an example with you of something. Okay, so as we mentioned again, one of the easiest ways to identify personality styles is process of elimination. So, do they ask a lot of questions? If they ask a lot of questions, they're amiable or analytical. If they don't ask a lot of questions, they're driver or expressive. So you could just cut it down in half and then figure out what's the next thing. So do they ask a lot of questions? No. Well, it's a driver or expressive. Do they talk a lot? Yes. Okay, then they're expressive. Process of elimination. Do they ask a lot of questions? Yes. Okay, so they're amiable or analytical. Do they talk a lot? No, then they're amiable. So you could do process of elimination to figure it out based on, do they ask a lot of questions? Do they talk a lot? Oh gosh, they talk a ton. Okay, so they're analytical or expressive. Do they talk fast or slow? Do they talk loud or quiet? Well, they talk loud and fast. They're expressive. So do a process of elimination is one of the easiest ways to do it. Okay, I'm at the table. I can't figure out if they're what they are. Are they sitting back in their chair or are they up front like this? Well, they're back in their chair. Okay, then they're amiable or analytical. Do they talk a lot? Yes, they do. Then they're analytical. So you could do a process of elimination. So this is just this is 101. This is class 1. Okay. I'll dive into some other stuff on how to identify some of them based on the questions and things like that. But would it be helpful if I gave you an example of an objection handler based on every personality style? Would that be helpful?
Yes, sir.
Does anybody
Yes.
care? Okay, great.
And also, do you have that book that was written about?
Yes. So if you want to learn more about personality styles, the foundation book of personality styles is Versatile Selling by Larry Wilson. Versatile Selling by Larry Wilson. I am under the belief, so I just sent this to our staff actually. I am under the belief that everybody in the world, no matter what your profession is, should read 2 books every single year, and it's Versatile Selling by Larry Wilson and How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I don't care how many times you've read them. I think everyone in the world should read them every year because it's all about dealing with multiple types of people and dealing with people in general. And unless you're going to become a coder, you're going to be in the people business. My own 2 cents. Okay, so I have a few of these, but I want to just give you an example on handling objections based on the different personality styles. Okay, I'll share this with you when I'm done. So client says we want to think about it. Okay, we want to think about it. Now, if I'm dealing with an amiable, here would be an example. Okay, so I understand you want to think it over. You want to make sure that everything is perfect for you and your family, correct? Yes, great. Why don't we work through this together? What's on your mind? So right away, I'm handling that by, I understand you want to think it over. You want to make sure everything's perfect for you and your family. Why don't we work through this together? What's on your mind? You know, it's a big decision. I want to take time to review everything. That makes sense. So let me ask you, other than taking time to review everything, is there anything else, or is there anything we went over that you have questions about? No. Great. So we are good on price and terms, right? Right. And you definitely want to sell the home to move closer to your kids, right? Right. Perfect. So really, we just have one decision left, which is deciding who will work best with you in selling your home. Now, be honest. Don't worry about hurting my feelings. Do you think I can sell your home, get you the most money in the shortest time possible, and get you closer to your kids? Yes. I appreciate your confidence in me. Let's not waste another day of being far from your kids. Let's get started on selling your home tonight. Sound good? So everything I'm doing on that objection is I'm asking questions to make them feel comfortable. It's all about them, right? And what we are going to do together, right? We're good on price. We definitely want to get you closer to your kids. You know, don't worry about hurting my feelings. Do you think I can sell your home? It's key.
Yeah.
Now, same thing for an analytical. We want to think about it. I understand there's a lot to think about in a decision like this. May I ask, is there one specific thing that you still have questions about? So right off the bat, I'm going at them. What's the specific thing? I'm not telling them. It's what's on your mind. No, I just don't want to make a rush decision. I can certainly appreciate that. Just to make sure you have all the information you need, may I ask a few additional questions? Because again, analyticals, do they have everything? Does it make sense? First question is regarding the price. Have I provided enough valuable information for you to agree on the price? Yes. Is there anything else you need to know about why I'm suggesting listing at that price? No. Great. Second question is regarding the terms. Did the net sheet make everything clear as far as the cost and the amount you will be receiving at closing? Yes. Are you okay with that amount? Yes. Third question is regarding marketing. Did my listing plan of action clearly outline how I'm going to get your home sold for the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time possible? Yes. Is there anything you would like me to change or add? No. Great. Fourth question is regarding your motivation. Are you absolutely set on selling your home? Yes. When would you like your first offer? Within a week. Okay. Fifth and final question. If I did everything I said I was going to do you think I can get you an offer within a week? Yes. Great. Seems like we have successfully thought this through, don't you think? Yes. So I just broke it down. We want to think it over, and I just broke it down step by step. Is it this? Is it this? Does this make sense? Have I given you everything possible? Do you need anything else? If an analytical said, we want to think it over, and you handled it that way, they would sign with you and refer every one of their friends.
Hopefully would not be analytical.
All right. Driver, I'll do one more. Driver, we want to think it over. We want to think about it. I can appreciate that. Usually at this point in the presentation, sellers are signing the contract. So do you mind if I ask you what it is that you're still thinking about? See, I'm being direct, but I'm not being rude. I'm being direct. Usually people are signing. What's on your mind? Well, I want a higher price. I can relate. As a homeowner, we always want a higher price, don't we? Yeah. Is there anything in the comps that you disagree with? No. Okay, so the market has decided to list at this price, hasn't it? Yeah. So really the only chance for you to get more money is to hire the right agent. Do you think I can sell you your home for the most money possible in the shortest amount of time? Yes. So do I. Let's make it happen. See, I'm just smoking out their objection, right? I was very direct and to the point. Most people are signing a contract. Why aren't you? Oh, it's a price. Okay. But I'm not making them, I'm being direct, but not making them feel stupid. Is there anything in the comps that you disagree with? No. Okay.
What about
Question.
expressive? What about expressive?
Mm-hmm. Expressive, you got to come up with on your own. I gave you 3.
You know, Robert, can I say something? I
Yes.
noticed also in terms of identifying that I noticed the appearance and the body movement also helps me determine who they are. Like, for example, I could say that Robert is an expressive, not because you always tell us you're expressive, but you're very lively and outgoing and things like that. But then in terms of, I don't know, you tell me if I'm right or wrong, but, you know, just as a, what do you call it, versatile or under stress or whatever, I could see there's more of an amiable part in you. Would you say that's correct or no?
No.
No, okay, so I'm wrong.
But you notice that, Alexis, because I have the versatility to be able to show an amiable side if I need to. The reality is that I am an expressive and my backup is an analytical. I love numbers. I geek out on numbers and math. I can be amiable with a concern for others. You can't be a successful coach and not have some amiable traits. You have to be versatile. Okay. So yes, I appreciate that because it just shows versatility. But yes, most of it is expressive and then over the top expressive. But other than that, it's typically goes more towards analytical. But you did it 100% right. Is like you just based on you don't even have to know anything about me. You could just see I'm animated, I'm energetic, I'm excited. It's like this guy's an expressive all day long and twice on Sunday. Like this isn't hard to figure out.
Yeah.
Good job. All right, I'm going to post what I just gave you in the chat box. those objections. I left the expressive blank. What I would challenge all of you to do is come up with the one for an expressive. I have it. I purposely left it blank.
Gosh, I'm expressive.
So come up with one for an expressive, send it to me, and I'll let you know my thoughts. And I left the expressive one blank because I'm expressive. So you come up with one on your own and I'll read it. And as an expressive, I'll read it and let you know if I think that would get me to sell or buy, whatever the objection you want to get me to. So I'll leave a little bit of a challenge for you. What I would also highly recommend, right, is what I did here based on the personality styles. If you really want to get good at objection handling, is do this for a number of different objections. I mean, I have, you know, we want to cut your commission. Why is your price so much lower than other agents? I have those right here in front of me on each different personality style. So I'll challenge you to do that. All right, questions on anything I went over today?
Can you repeat the name of that book again?
Versatile Selling by Larry Wilson.
Larry Wilson. Thank you.
There you go. You're welcome.
Robert, I have a question.
Yep.
Is there a way we can like sometimes role play based on like different personalities or something like that?
You could do that on your own. You can't do that in a large group because there's not enough people that know the different personality styles. So it would only be helpful for a couple people. But what we can do is we can do something if enough, I'll tell you what, if enough people send me an objection handler for an expressive, then I'll know that people actually care about it. And then we can maybe do something. But if I only get like 1 or 2 people to send it back, I'm not going to do that, which is kind of what I'm anticipating. Don't be upset at me. It's not my first day.
Basically, Robert, for an expressive,
Yes.
for an expressive is just hit the motivation and the end results on those.
Yep.
I want to think it over. Just go over.
Yeah, it's a
that.
very short objection handler, to be honest. It's not, you don't have to go through all the questions I went through with an analytical. It's
simpler.
Yeah, it's much simpler. Figure out their motivation, come up with whatever a pretend motivation is on someone, write out an objection handler for it, send it to me, and we'll go through it. I'll review everyone, send it to me. All right, I'm way over. So